It's Wellness Wednesdays. And this is going to be an ironic Wellness Wednesday because I'm not well at all right now. Those of you who've been following on Twitter, I've been having a really rough couple of weeks. Um, and I'm not going to get into the details, unfortunately, because it's long COVID related. And some people are real jerks about that because they think COVID is not real and vaccines are a conspiracy and my freedom and all that stuff. And I don't have the spoons to deal with that shit right now. I'm on one medication 4 times a day, another medication 3 times a day, another medication 2 times a day to counter the effects of the medication 3 times a day. You know, fuck my life. Um, but yeah, hopefully this will resolve in a few weeks. It was one of those things where there's a surgical path, but the recovery for that is just as long as, doing it without surgery. Um, and there's no guarantee the outcomes will be better because of, the pre-existing damage from a ruptured appendix. So, I've decided because one, I need so much anesthetic to get through surgery that they either have to hop me up on a whole bunch of drugs so I don't vomit or I vomit. Um, there's also a bunch of reasons why, with COVID related backlogs and medical burnout in the province of Ontario right now. There's a bunch of reasons to try to not. It's also past the window where um, surgical intervention is ideal. So these are tough choices, and this is why I'm talking about spoon stuff right now because some days are better than others, and it's really difficult to know what days are going to be good. And so, I mean, I've obviously had to cut back on work schedule, which means decrease revenue. You know what's coming now. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for somebody who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. In irony of ironies, like 5 different people have signed up for Leanna Care sessions in the next week. And I'm, trying to accommodate them as best I can while still spacing everybody out. And so, the wait time for new people right now is like 2 weeks, which is not normal. But then I'm reminded that, in the mental health system, it can be months. So I'm trying to go easy on myself. And that's part of what spoon theory is. Spoon theory was created by somebody named Christine Meserano. Maserando, apologies, who came up with the idea to explain what living with chronic conditions is like. And the idea is basically every action you take in a day costs a spoon. And everybody needs to, allocate energy. But people with chronic conditions have fewer spoons to spend than other people. So, the average person, say, has 20 spoons. Somebody with a disability may only have 12. And if you overspend one day, you have fewer spoons the next day. And so, for instance, not sleeping well, you lose a spoon for that day. Or if you're me, you lose a lot of spoons. I don't sleep well. I'm a real mess. The issue I've been having lately is, I've been back and forth to doctors every 3 days. And that's stressful because, Fortunately, on Monday, they put me right in a room. They did not make me sit in a waiting room with a bunch of coughing children, because that's what doctors' offices are like right now. Schools are back in. Every kid on the fucking planet apparently has a cold. Um, so they put me right in. But even getting through to doctor's office lines right now is difficult because medical staff is out with COVID. Uh, but just getting up and doing anything on a set time, because it takes so much longer in the morning to do all this damn medical stuff. Yesterday I gave myself 90 minutes to do it all, and it wasn't enough. So today I allotted myself 2 hours. That's 2 hours added on to my day when normally, my morning routine is about 45 minutes. Obviously, that takes some spoons, right? There's also pain threshold issues. And that, some days it's not as much of an issue. Other days it completely exhausts me. I've been having these weird moments of clarity where I think it's adrenaline will all be incredibly productive for like an hour in a day, like more productive than I've been in ages. I'll actually feel good, but then it's gone and it's like this crash. It's this weird body trying to fight what's going on thing. And it's really difficult because it's the whole you don't look sick thing, right? Now, some people who know me really well might notice a bit of a wild-eyed thing I've got going on here, but, I don't look deathly ill, right? I don't look like what's going on with me right now. I look my general pseudo-disheveled, halfway to awful self. But, I'm in pain right now. And I've been living with chronic pain for years, so I'm sort of used to it. But this is a different pain added on to the pre-existing stuff. So, hitting pain threshold is weird. If it's never happened to you, the best way I can describe it is that it's like you can't feel physical pain anymore. And so it just stops hurting in the traditional way. But at least for me, I just feel exceptionally nauseous when it happens. Nauseous and just like really, really angry and unwell and dizzy. And it's just like the system just sort of gives up. Because like you're not listening to me. And so I'm just going to stop sending the signals. But of course, then it, comes roaring back with a vengeance later, so on and so forth. And of course, there's no way to just stop working. They offer you nothing in terms of income supplements, which is, why if you were going to become a patron or kick some money towards my stuff, now would be, greatly appreciated, because I've had to, not do Twitch 2 weeks out of 3. I've had to slow down on clients. If I don't work, I don't get paid, except for, the Patreon and the coffee stuff. So, and that's really fucking humbling. That wears me out. Trying to just keep up with text messages on a cell phone. Want to throw it out the damn window. And so I kind of hit a point where I'm like, you know what? I can't keep up with text messages on a cell phone. The radio station makes me use WhatsApp. I haven't looked at it because I just can't. I can't put any attention to anything that isn't absolutely necessary right now. And, one of the things I've learned, and this is a really hard part of learning to live with a chronic condition. I'm not claiming this is easy at all. It's just a place you eventually get when you go through it for long enough, that you eventually realize that some people are going to be great and they're going to be really understanding and they're going to be there for you on your good days. And other people aren't. And those people can fuck off, you know? And it's really hard to predict who's going to be who. Some people you think are absolute jerks are actually pretty decent. The people you thought were, you know, they say all the right things, tend to be the absolute worst. You know, the people that have all the right words and know all the latest proper social justice-y terms, they tend to be the biggest assholes on the planet when it comes to actually being understanding and accommodating. They just drop you and go on to their next sucker that they can use. That's part of the reason I have such a low opinion of the organized left, even though, you know, I'm socially very progressive. There are too many people in that group that don't walk the walk. So if you're living with something chronic, and this is not just physical stuff, right? I have multiple chronic conditions, but this can mean PTSD, ADHD, social anxiety, OCD, anything like that. I find it works much better when I learn to appreciate and value my limits and work within them, um, as opposed to resenting my limits and trying to push past them. And that's something I haven't totally unlearned for working in television. I still have trouble trusting the it is a reality, and my head knows this. I've seen it, and yet my gut won't let me trust it. That in gaming, people are fine with unexpected stuff coming up. They recognize game dev is a process, and as long as you communicate, people are okay when life happens. That is true. And in my head, I believe that. But a decade working in the Canadian television industry has left me with this thing I constantly have to fight, that, oh, they'll say it's fine. They'll say it's fine. And then when you end up in the hospital, they'll charge the floral arrangement they set you to your production account and then threaten to cancel the show because you were late on delivery. That's Canadian entertainment industry in a nutshell there. And that's one of the kinder stories. But yeah, that's one of those things that when you're fighting that battle in your head, you don't do the smart things. You don't manage your spoons. You don't manage your energy effectively. And so you end up being less productive because you're constantly exhausted. And so you do, at least I found I have had to get really, really merciless with, yeah, that's going to get my attention and that's not going to get my attention. And I can only work with people who understand these realities. And it's not that people who don't understand these realities are bad people necessarily. They may be kind of immature. They may have their own issues going on, but it's just not the right fit, and they'll probably go on to do really, really well with a different kind of team. But for me, you know, I believe I do good work, and I believe that people benefit from me being a part of their projects. It's just this burn people out nonsense that goes on, especially in indie game dev. Just, I know some people thrive in it because they can't tell the difference between inspiration and panic. But for anybody with any sort of chronic condition, that's the worst thing you can do to somebody. Because one of the things about spoons, the whole spoon theory is what it's supposed to give people the idea is you have to plan ahead, right? You can't, go out partying, get super drunk, be hungover, go to work the next day, push through it, fall asleep, take a nap, wake up, do it again, get your sleep schedule all thrown up. You can't do that. It creates this cascading effect. You have to really plan your moves. And people who need the constant, we have to do this now. We have to do this now. Crazy deadlines, crunch, crunch, crunch. That means if you don't crunch, you don't love it. You have no idea how many game devs have said that to me, as if I don't love this fucking industry. And there are others, to be fair, there are others who don't believe that. And I think more and more the people that realize that crunch is part of the reason so many of us are ill, is overtaking the people that think they thrive off it. And that's the thing. Long term, you really don't. I really do think that slowing down and it's not slowing down. It's putting speed over haste. It's recognizing that if you're not losing people, periodically to 2 weeks stress leave, you'll actually move faster long term than if you're working people until they collapse, waiting for them to recover. Because the other thing is when you're working people sick, you're not getting their best. You're not giving people time to design and redesign. The weird thing about being in so much pain is I was struggling with this one particular, it's a essential introductory mini game in lieu of a lore dump for Song of Sparkle Muffin. I hate lore dumps because people don't remember them unless it's relevant, unless you can interact with it. People don't remember the bits of world building you fling at them, especially if you dump too much on them at once. So I've been trying to figure out how to make this thing funny and interactive and relevant and, actually a game instead of NPC talkie, player zones out and checks their iPhone, right? Sort of thing. And I finally broke through it in the middle of all this hell shit. And like I said, I have these little pockets of hyperproductivity because of adrenaline and body compensating for being in so much pain. So, hey, at least there's that. But, if I just had to pump it out shitty, it wouldn't have been nearly as good. And then we would have been committed to a really shitty essential part of early gameplay. There will hopefully be an update for Song of Sparkle Muffin on Friday. Mary just put together a video. He's waiting on me to watch it and give my thoughts. He's been very understanding about this. But it's just one of those things where the best creative people, and if you read biographies of a lot of great minds, a lot of their health wasn't good. If we only accommodate the healthiest people, we're not gonna get the best ideas. One of the things about living with challenges is I think it makes you more, if you're stoic about it and actually process it, it actually makes you better at connecting to other people going through difficult times. And I think that's an important thing for everyone. The stories I have heard about people I actually, I don't just tend to tell people to just fuck right off about something, but I did it regarding a guy on Twitter. I've talked to him for ages on Twitter. He's had real struggles throughout his life, and he got jumped on by this other guy who um just assumed a whole bunch of things about him based on nonsense. And I actually said to him, I never do this, but fuck off. Fuck right off. Get the fuck off of him right now. And those of you know, I don't tend to be that, just that. But this guy, I know his situation. I know his story. I know what he struggled. And I couldn't just sit there and let this guy say that shit. And I do think that, sorry, things will be better on the whole. You know, it's one thing to sit and complain about how life is and wait for somebody to do something about it. I honestly think that if everybody uses the things they can do to shore things up for not just ourselves, but also people who have shown themselves to have earned it, I think that makes everything easier for everyone, as opposed to, you know, these protesting or these complicated government programs or, you know, all this stuff. That stuff's important, but we can't do anything about that today. What we can do today is just be there and support other people and, you know, just do what's right to the best of our ability. And it means something with somebody who is struggling, who may not have enough spoons to get through the day. When you're actively there for them and I am very careful about using the term help because it isn't helping. It's you are supporting them. You are validating them. You are asserting their humanity in the face of somebody being a dick, or just asserting their humanity in the face of a really difficult time. Is that my doctor? No. You know, when you validate someone's humanity when they are struggling, you can actually, you know, give them a spoon. It can be this little burst of, all right, somebody was decent and didn't have to be. Somebody saw me. And that can give them that little burst that means they can, you know, go shopping that day or drive themselves somewhere that day or, you know, shower and actually style their hair that day, right? Instead of not having the energy to do that. And that's true of both mental and physical health conditions. The mind-body connection is very, very real. And when you think about stuff like that, where it doesn't take a lot of energy from you, but it gives so much energy to somebody else, you know, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you take those steps? That's the way it's done. And it's amazing to me how many people sit back and give all the reasons why they're just going to complain about everything and shit on things and be that miserable son of a bitch that nobody likes, instead of being someone who gives a shit. And a lot of people who live with disabilities feel very invisible and being treated like a human who is seen and matters and is able to take up space is powerful. There are a lot of people who started doing YouTube during a work illness or because of some other, change of life. And they don't talk about the stuff they're dealing with every day. But when people are lying about them and making stuff up about them and painting them out as this terrible person, it weighs on them. And it's not right because, I get that there are just enough grifters on things like YouTube for people to be hyper alert. But I think that accusation gets flung at some people who are just trying to make it through a bad time. And I know everybody, understands not putting, personal things on the internet, especially if you're feeling ashamed about them or if you're still processing it. I mean, I admit part of the reason I'm not getting into medical details with certain things is it's freaking me out. And I'm still getting my head around it. So I'm not ready to talk about it. And I'm sure someone will call me some sort of attention seeker or a faker or something like that with this. And it's like, can't do anything about it. But I've been doing this a long time. I've been a competitive or professional performer since I was 12 years old. People who haven't been doing it as long, it's sort of like, I feel the knives, but it's just sort of like, yeah, that hurts, that'll heal. When you're newer, you don't know that it's going to heal. And so it's really scary. And, the why is this happening to me factor is huge in any of this stuff. And so I guess the general thing I've found, anyway, about people and spoons is nobody has as many in play as they're making it seem like. Even big executives or, famous actors and things like that, they have these very regimented lifestyles and dietitians and nutritionists and personal trainers and this army of doctors. And that's, in a lot of ways, just keeping them functional. Lady Gaga has been very open with her medical struggles, which I give her credit for. A lot of people just hide it. A lot of executives hide their medical stuff. And I'm not going to drop any names or, tell any secrets because that's not right. Medical privacy is a thing for a reason. But yeah, everybody's going through something. Assume everyone's going through something. And sometimes you do have to push back. Sometimes you have to call BS. But be as positive as you can and only as negative as you feel like you have to be. Because, like I said, every positive interaction you have with somebody gives them more than it takes from you. And quite frankly, every negative interaction you have with somebody takes from both of you. And since we all, our drawers of spoons are only so big, every single person, wouldn't you rather use them wisely? Right? Just something to think about as you go about your days, because, a lot of people feel very insignificant and they feel like their words don't mean anything, that they talk and talk and talk and people don't notice their existence. They don't acknowledge them. I see people bleeding into comment sections speaking clearly like they think their words don't matter and nobody cares, and their words are completely meaningless. So they're just going to be nasty shitpost, trolls. And they're so convinced of that even when I directly respond and say, hey, I get it, but cut it out, they don't change. And so their self fulfilling prophecy of getting booted or getting ignored happens. And it didn't start off that way. Their behavior caused it to go that way. And it's not necessary. There are some people, I talk to in DMs. They're regular people, right? They don't use their real names online. I don't know what they look like in some cases. They really value their online anonymity. But just talking to them, just having a regular conversation with a human being about human stuff can matter a lot more than you think when, dealing with some of this culture war bullshit, dealing with some of this analytical stuff, it gets old. It gets real old. I recognize that it shouldn't be as important as it's being made out to be. So just sometimes a simple human conversation where it's one person laughing with another person about something silly can give that person a couple extra spoons that day. You do have the power to make that happen. Every single person. You do. Don't believe me? Try it. Don't just dismiss it. Don't say, no, it's not possible. Because telling yourself why something can't be done is just using spoons to get further behind. All right. Hope you found this interesting, if raw. Help support this channel, please. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and be well. Well, more well than I am right now.